Well, welcome everyone. Today we are at episode number 18 for our Go Figure podcast, and we have today Meg Sylvester. Thank you so much, Meg, for coming on. Meg is an IFBB figure pro. You are very popular here in Australia, and I actually had quite a lot of girls reaching out to me when I put my story up to say that you were coming on. They're really excited.
Amazing.
Girls from all different sports actually too. You had a lot of powerlifting women who were interested in watching this podcast as well.
Oh, that's cool. I try to be strong, but not quite as strong
Well,
as a
you must be.
powerlifter.
You've caught a few of their eyes, so
We've
Brilliant.
seen your
Love that.
videos, like wow.
You're very, very strong, very strong. But tell us a little bit about you and your journey and how you, I guess, learned about the sport, what got you into being a figure pro.
So I actually came to Australia a couple of times because I used to be a diver. So from like 10 meters, 3 meters, etc.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
You must have
So
some
I
muscle
did.
steel.
Yeah. So it was not scuba diving.
Oh, as in
Diving from like a
Like diving.
yeah.
artistic
Like
diving.
gymnastics.
I'm thinking diving down. Yeah, wow.
No,
Okay. I'm
Like
thinking
with the mask.
scuba diving.
Like the gymnastics style.
Wonderful. Wow.
Yeah. So I used to do that, and I retired, if you can call it retiring, in 2000 and I think it was 15 or 16. And then I just started going to the gym. The man who owned the gym, I think it's like the same story for most people. He was like, you should try competing. And I've always really loved like a muscular female body. I don't really like skinny for me personally. I like to feel strong, and I've always had like an athletic body because of what I did. So that's where it started. I did bikini for a couple of years. I won my pro card in bikini.
Wow.
I didn't like bikini.
Yes.
Not that I do. I love it. I love to watch
Yes.
it, but for me personally, I don't like that type of training. I don't get a lot of enjoyment from it, and I prefer having a big upper body. So that's why I decided to make the change to figure. Obviously did my pro debut in figure in 2020, and then obviously I've competed 21 and 22, but taking this year out a bit ahead of next year.
Wow. So a big next year coming up, hey?
Yes, hopefully it'll be a good one.
Yeah, I decided to do the same as well. I went pro last year, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna look different for stage. So I decided to take 2 years off. Right.
Amazing.
So all of this year, like yourself, I'm just not gonna compete and just eat.
I think from a female perspective, obviously competing and getting leads not very easy. But I think from a female perspective with monthly cycle and things like that, obviously lots of things get compromised when you're in a competition prep. And for me, I want to make sure that I still can function as a female for purse bodybuilding. So I think taking some time off sometimes is a good thing. If you're not bothered, then fair enough. But for me, I am.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. Because we did kind of touch about just when we were off air, we touched base a little bit about how you manage yourself, especially as a woman. I guess managing yourself as a woman in this sport is very different to a man. And you've been coaching for some years now, and prepping girls as well for shows.
Yeah.
And so, what are some of the considerations that you with yourself and your clients that you take, that you work through in order to make sure that the athlete, or just if it's general population, which is most of our clients anyway, right? What considerations do you take into play when you're looking after their health?
Blood work's a massive thing. I think that lots of people try to brush maybe even little things under the carpet when it's probably just important to, even as someone that's not a competitive bodybuilder, anyone that's a female that obviously wants to be able to have a baby when they're older, etc. I think it's really important to make sure that you keep on top of blood work. Obviously, blood work doesn't show everything because fertility tests are obviously going to be something that shows whether you're fertile or not, because you can still have a monthly cycle and still not be fertile. So I think that plus if you are getting a little bit older and you're looking down the route of perhaps in a year, a couple of years, wanting to perhaps have a child, something like a fertility test is always something that I try to push for females. And then obviously on the other side of it as well, ladies that are a little bit older in the sport, that obviously are coming closer to more the menopause side of things, getting actually connected a little bit more with like a clinic that could potentially help with something like HRT, etc. To obviously make sure that like symptoms of anything aren't normal. We shouldn't just brush them under the carpet. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I've missed a cycle this month. Oh, it doesn't matter because I'm a little bit stressed. Well, no, actually, you do need to look into that a little. Or on the other end of the spectrum, a lady feeling absolutely horrendous because of the menopause, and they're just like, oh, it's all right. My mum went through it, and you've got to get the night sweats, and you're going to feel terrible, etc. You don't have to actually know. People and doctors can support with that. So those main things are probably what I take into consideration when obviously working for myself and then also clients too.
Yeah, and as an athlete as well, obviously it's a little bit different than the general population. So like
Yeah.
you're working with athletes or yourself that might be assisted, for example,
Yeah.
like what that process with the blood tests, do you like get them done like maybe before or yourself, does it happen beforehand, during, after? Like what would be something that would be a sensible process?
Approach. So I think it's always important to get it done prior to obviously starting your PED cycle. Obviously make sure that everything's nice and aligned. But if you are someone that is a PED user and you are someone that's a competitive bodybuilder over time, I think having blood work at least every 8 to 12 weeks is pretty much a bare necessity. Obviously people tend to then not do their blood work during their cycle. How do you know whether what you're actually taking is like the right thing? It's like I have seen people's blood work that have come to work with me intra-cycle, and what they're using is definitely not what it says on the tin because of.
Oh, I'm so glad you guys are going to have a yes. Take it away, Lisa.
Oh my goodness, this is happening more and more. If you notice, it's more and more frequent.
Yeah.
That it's happening now. Like I had one client that was on one compound by a particular, coach, and then I'm like, well, go get your blood works done. I was like, her test levels were 28, and a woman's test levels is like 0.5 to maybe 2. Like that's the normal range. And like if they're on PEDs, then I'm okay with up to like 3 or 4 for a figure competitor. That's it, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I've been on it for a month, and her voice had completely changed. There was virilization, facial hair had started, and like there was just, her moods were all over the shop. And I said, I don't think you're on what they're saying that you're on. Let's go have a look. And sure enough, like you were saying, it wasn't the case, and it's becoming quite common in our sport that, oh, if you compete with the IFBB or you're doing an untested federation, first of all, that you need a stack to get started. But second of all, that you can't develop an amazing physique without them, or you can't be competitive without them. Now, I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying you can. I'm just saying that there's probably, and you can probably elaborate on this as well a little bit, that there are probably some other considerations rather than going down that road and, damaging yourself. And I think it's really great you made that point, Meg, where you like test intra to make sure you're on the right stuff, number one, and source the source as well, where you get from. Is it a proper clinic? That, are you, I don't know, trading Bitcoin for PEDs or something online? And
but people do. We laugh, but people do. I don't know if it's because they're too nervous to ask someone who's perhaps in the mix. I don't know if people are scared to approach IFBB pros, etc. Like in the UK, we have a big community, and because we all train at normal gyms at normal times, like lots of people feel a bit more comfortable perhaps to speak to us. And I don't know if it's like that around the rest of the world, but still some very scary stories that obviously go on as well. I think with PEDs, you've got to remember that if you're someone who isn't developing naturally, who isn't growing muscle, who doesn't build in the way that, or you look like you have a really nice frame, you're not going to get that from a PED. Like, it's not natural. It's not going to change your genetics or anything like that. So if you're not getting a lot out of a little, what's the point in going down the route of pushing that boundary? And I think lots of girls are also a little bit, I don't know if the words, I don't want to use the word deluded because it's not the word that I'm trying to say, but I think people think that we're on things all the time. And I think that that's a really scary side to the sport, because you've got younger competitors that are coming through now that believe that that's the case. Whereas if I look at myself, for example,
Yeah.
I run 2 cycles a year of 8 weeks stints,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
that's it.
Same. Yep. That's it. Like
Yeah,
at the arse end and in the building phase.
yeah, exactly. And like sometimes in a competition prep, when it's longer, will the cycle length be longer, or will you kind of do something, have a little bit of a break, do something again? Yes. So then does it become a little bit longer? Yeah, for sure. But it's still not that long on. It's like I was actually speaking to a really great women's bodybuilder a couple of weeks ago, and she's also the same. Like, she doesn't actually take anything in her off season, and then she does obviously into her competition. But obviously, their cycles are a little bit larger and a little bit longer than what I was at. But I was like, if someone like that looks like this does that,
Right.
let's start being a little bit smarter with it. Because even if we look at some people that perhaps we compete with in the IFBB, they'll compete all year. So unfortunately, they are probably on assistance all year, which then gives a lot of false pretense or negativity to other younger athletes that think, oh, I need to do that as well, when you don't.
Yeah. And let's talk about that, like what are the effects of, well, if you're competing all year, let's say you've got
Yeah.
paid sponsors, and so those sponsors are like, you've got to do 10 shows this year, and you've got to, and we will give you your 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, K per year as a professional athlete.
Yeah.
What are those implications of, being on PEDs all year round?
You can completely put your body into shutdown.
Okay.
Even if you're having something like a monthly cycle, which I can't imagine that happening if somebody's heavily dieting all year, plus then obviously got the compounds in that you take when you're obviously an assisted athlete. You're not going to be able to function as a female anymore, and that's going to be something that happens for the rest of your life. Lots of people have the viewpoint of, I don't care. I don't know anybody that 5 years after retiring wouldn't look back and go, oh, I wish that I'd not have done that. And if they don't, then fair enough. But I can't imagine that not happening. But like for myself, even with being very reserved, I would say with assistance, I've still got a deepened voice compared to what I had when I was a younger girl. Like, I definitely don't look very pretty right now because I'm in the off season and it's a big chubby face and whatnot. But like, yeah, there's definite things that happen that change over time that you can't hold back on. But when you're pushing all the time, those changes are going to come thick and fast, and you're not going to be able to get rid of them.
And and you're so right, like that. My first experience with PEDs was in 2019. So I was, at this point I was probably 48 shows into an amateur as a natty.
Yeah.
To start with, and let's just put it this way: the cycle that I was put on was enough for a man, and I didn't know anything about it at that time. And I just took what my coach told me to take. And anyway, got the deepening of the voice. But lo and behold, on the other side of that, and this was at the Arnold's in 2019, and that was in March. My body rebounded really, really, really hard, to the point where I ended up having a gallbladder attack and having to have my gallbladder taken out. And then my kidneys were only functioning at 60%.
Yeah.
It took me 2 years. I think COVID was the best thing that happened because I couldn't compete. I had to go into
Forcing
recovery.
you to rest.
And it forced you to learn a lot too, didn't it, Lisa?
Yeah,
Like it forced you to really dig deep and go, wow, okay, I'm going to look right into this. And that's why Lisa is so passionate about it, about protecting the women in our sport and sharing this with others, because I think there is a lot of stigma around it. Maybe a bit of girls are ashamed to reach out and talk to each other, or they feel like people won't understand. And then so who steps into that role to give advice? But people that really have no right to be giving advice to, you know, anybody, let alone a female competitor.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think it's also hard because there's a lot of dishonesty as well.
Yeah.
People will say that they're not taking certain things or they're doing whatnot. Where I'm part of obviously the Trained by JP brand, so we have the forums through there. I post everything that I do, always through kind of the bad things and the good things. So I'm always brutally honest, but you don't find that a lot with people, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you know, as well, and I think if we're looking at it from a business perspective as well, a lot of these coaches are like, well, you know, it's financially viable for them to be on PEDs that I produce or that I get, right? Because they might get a that. But also it's like, well, I put all these girls on stage. It's like a money-making, you know, thing, churning them through. And then on the other flip side of things as well, because I've seen that here in Australia and overseas. And then on the flip side as well, it's a lack of education. It's like, well, you not understand nutrition and how nutrition can be used to actually build and training, you know, and you're really good with your training as well. So
training's amazing.
It's so much info from your training videos and your education. So in terms of where did you learn this? Because like you're not your normal coach. You're like a hybrid version, you know, of when it comes to strength training as well.
Yeah. So when it comes to the knowledge that I've got, obviously my husband, he has been in the sport for, is it like 15 years now, I think? So since he was a young boy, obviously he's learned a lot through his time. I've learned a lot off the back of him. Obviously we have a real big tap into Jordan Peters. Jordan's a really close friend, obviously, of Kuba, and then of myself. Him and Corinne have definitely passed on a lot of knowledge, lots of questions, lots of just back and forth between us. And then also the latest thing that I've done is the Prescript course, which is actually really fantastic. He based himself, I think, in Dubai and Australia quite a lot. And it's more so based around biomechanics, etc. But obviously has a tap into bodybuilding, powerlifting, etc. So massively just through that, and then just through self-experience.
No, I love that as well, because you can go, like I've got my sports science degree that I got, you know, 23 odd years. Right. This is an attachment. That is an insertion. Eccentric. It's really basic stuff that you get taught, you know. And when it comes to bodybuilding movement and strength movement, there are so many other things that are not in the textbook that you learn so much better. Almost like an apprenticeship, like an internship, you know. And I was thinking to you, Rose, wasn't I? My nutrition coach, his name is Perry Vanakis, and he's incredible. And he's had 35 years experience as a bodybuilder and what have you. But when it comes, like, his thing is nutrition. Like, he's an Einstein with that. That's his little power place. And I'm like, I'm just going to pay you to mentor me. And so I've got all my clients and I'm going to put together my nutritional program, even though I'm still a naturopath and I've still got my qualifications in that. And we're going to go through each one of my clients each week, right? And this is what I've done with them. Would you have done anything different? Or, you know, and work it that way as well when you're dealing with someone. And he's got a PhD in medicine as well, PhD in nutritional medicine. So he, you know, I find learning like that so much more enjoyable to start with, but I don't like the writing the theses or anything like that. No. Been there, never again. And the retention of that information is so much deeper as well,
Yeah, it is through experience, through asking questions, learning and understanding. It goes in a lot better than what it does if it's just from a book, because a book can only teach you so many things. It's not put into practice.
That's great. And so when someone comes to you to, let's say they want to transform, they want to recompose their body,
Yeah,
muscle, drop fat, get their beach body on,
yeah.
for their holiday in Spain in the middle of the year, what have you. Um, what kind of a process, like how would you periodize that for someone, and what kind of time frame would you give someone, let's say that's just a general person that comes to you? And I know because what's a general person? Well,
So it's all very individualized. I guess it depends on the person. The first thing that I do with any client that I have, whether that's I do honestly deal with a lot of lifestyle clients as much anymore. As part of our business, we have two coaches that deal mostly with lifestyle. But as a business, we do tend to get blood work from everybody to begin with, to obviously make sure that, yeah, when we obviously give out the information around not even just PEDs from a bodybuilding perspective, but even from a supplementation for health, we need to make sure that we're obviously giving them the right things, because there's people that'll have certain different things that obviously require different amounts of health supplements, etc. So we go down the route of that. We then figure out what their goals are. We have a look at their physique. We do a full analysis of what their physique looks like, how they obviously want to look, give them an obvious action that genetics do play a huge role. So don't expect to look like, I don't know, Cameron Diaz if you want to look like Cameron Diaz. Whoever it may be, if it's
yes,
a bodybuilder, don't expect to look like Sydney Gillen, because obviously that's not going to be the case. And then that's it really. You go through what they like, what they don't like, set up a diet plan that obviously they actually are going to be. Yeah, because if they don't enjoy it, they're not going to be able to stick to it. The best plan that you can have is one that you enjoy. That's the one that you're going to adhere to most. So for me, I don't really like rice. I like bread. And as much as that's seen as maybe perhaps not a bodybuilding food, like for me, that is the food that digests well for me. I enjoy it. So that's going to be one of my base portions of my diet. And then we work it back really. We look at what the end goal is going to be. We set out a timeline of when we're going to be dieting, when we're going to be pushing, when we're going to be sitting into a maintenance phase, when assistance is going to be going in if you're a lifestyle client, even the same process, because I think it's really important to have a real mind map of, or like a visual description of exactly at what point am I going to be doing one thing. Is a plan going to be subject to change? Yeah, 100%. But for the most part, if you've set it out well, the plan doesn't change too much.
Yeah. And then when it comes to like managing clients, let's say, because you have a like a big online
Yeah,
as well. I know you've got a couple of,
yeah.
oh, you had one here in Australia that I knew of. Goodness, what's her name? I forgot it now, but she used to train at Doherty's gym in Brunswick. Young lady, she wanted to do figure. Jackie.
Jackie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
She was a brilliant natural. She had a lot of potential.
tell me about it. I think she's taken a break. I think she's gone a different way now. I don't know what's happening. Yeah. But yeah, she's like, when you're working with her, like her shape, and I was like, holy Mary, Mother and Joseph, like that's genetics, right?
Yeah.
But when you're managing people online, what does that look like? Do you do like weekly check-ins, monthly? Does it vary?
I think it depends at what point, again, like say, because I deal more with competitors, I guess the communication's a little bit more frequent than what you would do from a lifestyle perspective, unless they want more. But it's weekly check-ins in and off season. If you've got or going into diet phase, maybe a little bit more frequently. Towards the back end of a competition prep, as you'll know, the last kind of 4 weeks, you're checking in daily, aren't you? Really? So yeah, calls, whatever they need, because I think it's important to make sure that they feel as least stressed as they possibly can. To obviously, I think that when you are a coach as well, you become almost a mentor. I guess you become a therapist at times as well, because you know everything about them. You've got to give them advice on everything, because that's going to have a massive impact on their bodybuilding as well. Obviously, only so far as you are qualified, but not if you've got someone with an eating disorder, you can definitely obviously help with things like that. But you are going to have to get a professional's help at some point because you've got to make sure that you are giving the correct advice as well.
I like that you said that, like it's the outsourcing, like know
Yeah.
your pay grade, like know your pay grade. Also know that you have a duty of care as well. Like you might know what needs to happen, but you might not be qualified to actually, you know, do what needs to be done with that person, or be able to prescribe them what they need, you know, or, you know. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I find sometimes that that's something that does fly under the carpet a bit.
And I think it's important for athletes to hear that too, that most good coaches like yourself, and again, we try to get coaches onto the podcast who, you know, we've followed and we've looked at and we've gone, that's a good coach. That's a coach that really cares about their athletes. The emotional support element, you know, being the therapist within the coach, that's a big part of it. And I think that a lot of women feel, oh, well, that's, you know, I'd like that from my coach, but it's not their role. But really it is. A good coach will provide that for you 100%.
Yeah, 100%. I think that because both of my husband, obviously we work together as a business.
Yeah.
I think that there's definitely certain things that as well, things that people would probably prefer to ask Kuba, and things that people prefer to obviously speak to me about. And our clients have got obviously that cross communication, that if they'd prefer to speak to Kuba on certain things or me on certain things, whether that's Kuba's clients or my clients, they obviously have the tap into that as well. So I think it works quite well.
Yeah, that's so important as well, to have that diversity, isn't it? You know, have whether you're a solo person running a business as a PT or coach, but have your community of people that you can leverage out to, because ultimately, you know, these days we're dealing with, you know, licorice, all sorts of people from all walks of life.
You know, when I see an individual coach that has, you know, boasting about, you know, I've got 250 clients, and I'm thinking, are all of those competition prep clients? Because 250 clients of prepping people that doesn't sound like it would be very personalized. It doesn't sound like it would be very
and you can be the best coach in the world, but if you're not giving the correct individuality or specialists to people,
the right care,
it's not the level of care, it's not a good business model in my opinion. You've got to make sure that they feel good and positive and happy and getting everything that they need from you.
And I guess when you're starting out and you're still learning the game as well, I mean, everyone has a first day as a PT, you know, like we're all going to be shit when we first start. We were shit when we first started.
Oh God, yeah.
I think just accepting that you don't know everything's the best thing. If somebody asks a question and you don't know, just be honest.
Yeah, and then that's your job as a good coach to go and find that information out, or put them onto someone who does know.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's working within, like, know your tipping point, you know what kind of coach you want to be, and be very open about that. You know, we've got one coach here in Australia, and he cracks me up. I'm not gonna name names or anything like that. Great bloke, and he's like, no, I just want, you know, mass. I just want a mass of clients. I don't ones that are low maintenance, that aren't going to break my balls, that, you know, are going to pay me X amount per week, and I'm going to, you know, give them their program. And if they've got any questions, they'll have a set time every week or every month, depending if they're weekly or monthly clients, and that's it. And, you know, I don't want to get involved in the emotional side of things, you know, but
which is fair enough.
Which is
everybody has their own.
That's it, you know, and it's great to have that diversity. But you know,
and some clients don't have the emotional stuff, so they're like, I just don't want to hear from my coach until it's like check-in time, and they're vice versa. So they might gel in that space. But I
Yeah,
like your
100%.
approach. I like that sort of, it's like you have a team of coaches, which is really impressive.
Yeah. And do you find that the kind of coach you are is the kind of coach, the way that you want to be coached yourself as well? Like, do you think about those components? Do you know what I mean?
I think because I've been in sport for a very long time, my needs are very different to someone that's very new to the sport. Because as much as I've not been a bodybuilder for a really long time, I have been a competitor for a really long time. Like I started competing with diving when I was 7. So I'm not a very needy person, but I remember what I was like when I first started. So I think that I'm the type of coach that when I first started, what I wanted. And then throughout the time of working with someone, because it's nice to work with someone for a long time, I think that then your relationship and your needs and your the way in which you communicate is very different. I think it's important to be diverse from that perspective.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. That's really amazing that you actually say that, because it gives you an honest understanding of your diversity yourself as a coach, that you can go, well, I
Yeah,
can be that person, but I can also be this for that person as well. And that comes with experience, doesn't it? Like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it does. I when I was at uni, I studied to be a teacher, so I think that that also molded from there. So yeah.
Yeah. And when you're let's say if we're looking at coaches as well, and you're a
Mhm.
looking for a coach because you want to improve
Yeah,
yourself, get on stage, do your first,
yeah.
what's some like non-negotiable attributes, let's say qualifications, or things that those people that are hearing this today should be asking when they're interviewing?
Interview. I think that when you first initially are looking for someone to be a coach, I think that you get a lot of what they're about, their personality type, etc., through how they are on social media. I think that then speaking to them, asking whatever questions that you feel is right for you, like how many times a week am I going to be able to contact you? How many times per week am I going to be checking in? What is going to be the process of helping with training, being able to see you in person, etc. Whatever your needs are as a client, what you hold to a really high regard,
Value.
those are the questions. Yeah, what you value most,
Yeah.
those are the questions that obviously you need to ask. And then I think sometimes, and this is what I always say to anybody that ever comes to work with me, there's no pressure at all to, you can have a conversation with me, you can ask for my information. It's completely up to you as to whether you want to speak to me. I'm not going to be someone that ever goes and messages you again because I'm trying to perch you as a client or anything like that. I don't like that. But I think the best thing that someone can do is obviously ask all the questions to that coach and hopefully they give the right answer, but speak to their clients. I think that that's the best thing that you can possibly do, and speak to a few of them, because obviously it's better to have an average in your head as to how many tallies of points this coach has got for you. But ask a few of their clients exactly what they get from their service, what that coach is like, personality type, etc. And I think that you'll be able to get a better understanding of what people or what you want, and if you want to work with that client,
Like that.
sorry, coach.
That's awesome. That's great. And so let's flip it. What is
Yeah.
like, let's flip it for a minute. And you're like, well, when you take on a client, I have a process that I go, can I coach that person? Or is
Yeah.
that coachable? That's my number one thing.
Yeah.
Coachable. Can I, like when you're going, okay, what does it take to be the right client for me to help? What process do you go through?
For me personally, the two things that I ask of a client is be honest and work hard. And
Yeah.
if things go wrong, just be honest about it, because that's the only way that you're going to get things sorted. And to be honest, I don't think that I'm at a point in my coaching career where I can be super choosy with the competitors. I think that the only thing that I'm more choosy about now is that I prefer to work with someone that does compete, or someone that is obviously really passionate about bodybuilding, that they have more of the mindset of a competitor rather than going out every week, looking nice to go out every weekend, etc. Because I obviously have the two ladies who are incredible at what they do that help with that. That obviously we can do that. So I don't think I'm at a point where I can be super choosy, apart from the fact that that's what I would probably prefer to do at the moment. I think it's more of a let's see how it goes. If you're not being honest with me, I will be brutally honest back that you're not being honest.
Yeah.
And then we'll come to the decision whether perhaps you're not the right client for me, I'm not the right coach for you, etc.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Because bodybuilding is not for everybody, and it's become a little bit more of a fad, hasn't it? Like everybody wants to do it, and you'll have seen this from being in the sport for a really long time, that
Yeah.
it's become less of a rarity. It's become less.
It has.
More
Yeah.
mainstream. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot more
So
Yeah.
I was going to say, I
Come
think
on.
more so with the women's categories than the men's.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, 100%. Like 50 million people in bikini that are doing every regional show at the moment, and I know that bikini is very different, but even when I was a bikini competitor, to look the best, I still had to be regimented. Everything had to have its place, etc., etc. So I think there's lots of people that perhaps mentally aren't there for bodybuilding, and sometimes it takes a little bit of coaching to get there. Like there is traits that can be trained, but there's certain things that can't be, and you've got to be really mentally strong and really love it to actually do it and do it well.
You do. You need to have a little bit of tough skin as well.
Yeah,
In the
because you're going
sport.
to get told you shit lots of times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. And you're going to be told by your coach. I mean, the amount of times I've checked in and my coach has just gone, "What did you do? What have you done? You know, what have you done?" And I'm just like, "Oh, I effed up. Okay, I'll come clean." You've got to have someone that's willing to call it and that's willing to put you back in your spot and be strong with you. And if you're not an athlete who can take that and step back and go, yeah, you know what? I am going to be honest. I'm going to be completely transparent in this process from A to Z. Then, it's just not going to be a process that is going to work for you.
Yeah, 100%. I know that I've had some difficult conversations with some clients, and they're still with me, and they like the fact that I'm very honest. But like I'm sat there having this conversation, I'm thinking, I'd probably feel a bit warm if this was someone having this conversation with me.
Yeah. You'd probably be getting the fan out.
Yeah.
It's we're having those conversations because we care, not because we're on a ego trip or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's right.
Telling them that is important as well. I'm only saying it because I care about you and I care about your journey.
That's right. And I think, as an athlete, even we've probably all experienced this. Sometimes you need to have a shocker of a show where you get on stage and you get your photos back and go, I should never have been on that stage. Now I know why I need to be honest and why I need to, but you want to save people from that as a good coach. You're like, trust me, I know what it's like when you don't listen to your coach and you get on stage and you can never look at your photos again because they look so terrible.
Yeah, definitely.
And, you've wasted all this money. So yeah, it's always coming from a good place and one that's trying to actually say, I'm trying to help you.
It's kind of like, it's that resistance sometimes that clients have with it's like a breakthrough. They need a breakthrough so that every level has a devil, as you're going onto this journey of transforming your body. You're not just transforming your body, you're transforming your mind, your habits, your life. And it's the head that tells the body what to do. So a lot of the time it's like, well, what are these blocks up here that are causing you to loop around and create those same cycles over and over and over again? And what kind of a person are you going to need to work with in order for them to call you out on that? Especially, and I get this all the time, getting strong women, right? You get strong women that work with you. They might, be in a career where they're like a CEO or a manager of some sort, and they're in charge of a lot of people, and they're very regimented, and they know what they want. And heaven help you if you try and tell them that they've done something wrong, and like, well, I had a business function. What was I supposed to do? I had that glass of wine. Otherwise, I would have been, left out. They would have been asking me, and I wouldn't have got the contract or what have you. And it's like, when you're dealing with those,
big personalities, strong personalities.
Yeah. You've got to, like, that's what I think, because I'm a big personality girl. I need a coach that's going to be bigger than me in terms of, not necessarily bigger, but in terms of how to handle me.
Yeah.
Not necessarily what I like. Not just having a best friend, that I can go in and pay them money each week to, get coached and trained and do my diet.
Yeah.
I want someone that's going to be able to call it and see through my own
and put you in your place. Yeah.
And I think that only comes with but when I first started out, the coaches that I wanted were the ones that were easy, that were fun, that were friendly, that I could walk all over, but not I wouldn't say that then, but I would say that now. Got nowhere.
Yeah. It doesn't bring a good outcome at all.
It doesn't, Meg. It really, really doesn't. And I can tell you that firsthand. I remember doing that with one of my coaches, and I went on stage looking like dog shit, literally.
Yeah.
Worst I've ever looked in my life. I was so embarrassed. I don't even mention that anymore. It's not even one of the competitions I ever did. That's in the delete.
It's the delete files. They're the delete files. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
in the bin.
What are your plans moving forward? I know we had a little bit of a chat off air about certain shows and what have you. But given that I think you mentioned that this year it's just a year that you're going to focus on building and refining and
yeah. So I still have a lot of tissue to put through the posterior. Well, yeah, just a little bit more density, because the girls in the figure ranks in the Pro League are just astronomically big, but still have beautiful shapes. So obviously they are still very much figure. It's not that everything's just got bigger, hasn't it? So
it's evolved. It's evolution.
So that's the goal at the moment, just to put a lot of tissue through the back of me. That's where my training volume is applicated to, just to make sure that we can obviously bring an all-round really fantastic physique, because from the front it's good, but obviously the back just needs to match the front a little bit more. I'm not going to compete until the first part of next year, so I was going to compete earlier than what I'd originally planned, but apparently that's off the cards now. So I'll probably be I'll probably
we've only just found that out. Yeah.
Yeah, I only just found that out. So I'll probably start
been on stage together, girlfriend.
Oh. I knew. Maybe one time in the future. It'd be lovely.
It's so cool.
Oh, it'd be so awesome.
Yeah. I would love that. Everyone that we've been on stage with, or everyone that we've been on the potty with, like to be on stage with each other and then just all go out afterwards and have
that'd be amazing.
Or something.
Yeah, exactly. I think that people don't realise how. I mean, I only did one show in bikini, to be fair, as a pro, because the show that I won my pro card in, I obviously did the pro show, but the girls definitely weren't as friendly as all the girls in figure. Like backstage last year, everybody was so nice. If you didn't have a band, everyone was giving you a band. If you had like something in your hair, or you were slightly twisted in your bikini, everybody was so helpful and so lovely. I love competing in the class that I do. But yeah, I'll probably compete April, May time next year. So start prep probably in December this year.
Well, what do they have then? They have, I think there's a Texan show, and then they've got the New York Pro as well.
Yeah, they've got like Pittsburgh.
That's right, that's the one. Yes, they're kind of close together.
I think Toronto's also around that time, or Vancouver.
It is. Yeah, I think a few weeks after, maybe in June.
Yeah, so I'll probably go to the States and just stay there for like 4 to 6 weeks and just compete in a few shows. Yeah.
Wow, how
Literally.
I
exciting.
think I might be doing those ones too. So it'll be great, you know, to
Oh.
kind of have a face as well, like be able to go there. And this is what I love about this podcast, is because we get to meet everyone. And then once we, you know, do get onto that pro circuit and
You feel like you know someone.
I know, because it's so
Yeah.
overwhelming when you just don't know anyone. There's not a soul that you've ever met, spoken to, and they're all just these mythical creatures that you follow on Instagram, and
Yeah.
you look up to them, and then you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be going overseas and standing on stage with these girls. So it's been such a great opportunity to actually meet girls like
I bet.
yourself. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, otherwise you get there and you're like, oh, what do I do?
I know. I was literally thinking, I've never really traveled by myself overseas. I've always had someone with me, and this year, hopefully we can go together, but we're not sure, 100% sure yet. So it's kind of like, wow, the thought of going over all by myself, like not knowing anybody, was quite daunting.
There's lots of ladies that do it on their own and go on their own. You'll not be on your own at all.
That's what every girl that's come on has said that. They said, no worries, no, you never have to be on your own. Just, reach out, and
That's what we said to Sandy as well, because we were chatting to Sandy Williamson, and I said to her, for me, it's like, I've got a 7-year-old boy and I'm a single mum, and I run my business full time, and it's like, well, I'm going to have to pull him out of school, but then I don't have the luxury of staying overseas for 4 to 6 weeks with a kid that's out of school. So it's like, and then I'm like, well, who's going to look after him when I go over there? She goes, oh, we've got babysitters sorted. Don't you worry about that. Bring them backstage. They're fine. They can come, we'll look after them. And it's like,
I love
that. It was, you remember? I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is actually a real, that real family community. And that's especially what I found, especially with the figure ladies as well. Or the ones that have been there, like the FemFlex Friday girls, that like your Whitneys and your Ashleys, that have been in the game for a decade plus, 20 years, and they've been there for so long. We have just so much respect for each other.
Yeah,
because we're a rare breed. And we understand each other. And don't get me wrong, we go on stage and we're fighting for that position, but not, through a space of animosity or anything like that. It's
no, and whoever wins, you know that they were the best.
Exactly, and you're happy for them, you might go, oh damn, I missed out this time, another time, next time.
But that's more to yourself.
Not to yourself,
not to someone else.
Right.
Yeah.
Every time I've ever been beaten on stage, I've always looked to the winner and gone, oh wow, how amazing. And every time I've won, I've thought, wow, I can't believe they picked me. So it's a really beautiful sport. It's a great group of girls that we've managed to meet with now, and it really has just restored my faith in the sisterhood and my belief in it.
And that
definitely
figure is strong. Like it is a growing sport, and it's an evolving sport, and we've got a lot of girls from like bikini and coming up through the ranks into figure as well, because that's naturally like you want to
progression.
So many bikini girls reach out and say that they want to look like us girls, and for some reason I used to think, I think of bikini as these beautiful little modeling type girls that are just stunning, and that they would never want to look like me in my mind. That's what I think. But a lot of them do. A lot of them want to progress to the next level because they enjoy having muscular shoulders and bigger arms and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If they love bodybuilding, they'll love to train, and obviously you're very capped as to what you can do as a bikini competitor.
Yes,
We had,
totally.
we had one girl in this country. She's actually she's a pro. Shanae, is that her name? Shanae?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I
And
know
she
which
just
one you
competed
mean.
in that.
Yeah.
She competed in the bikini Singapore
Mhm.
pro show. She got
Okay, yeah.
you know the one. She's got dark, beautiful,
I do
dark,
know who you mean.
yeah. Fucking unbelievable. I said, geez. I said this to her. I said, gosh, she'd look good in figure. Anyway,
Yeah, she would. She's got a very dense muscle.
well, she's too big for bikini, and
Yeah,
she's
100%.
like, she actually called it, and she's taking time out. She's like, I haven't been able to train the way that I want to train. I can't eat the way that I want to
Oh,
eat,
bless
you know.
her.
So she's like, I'm taking time out, but I'm coming back, and I'm just going to see where I fit. And I reckon it's going to be,
Where her,
but
yeah, a figure or a wellness.
yeah,
Be
yeah,
very
Could
good to
even
see.
do wellness, you know, because she's kind of got that shape with her legs and stuff. Like she could
Yeah.
totally do both. Yeah, she's, you know, and if she didn't want to kind of develop her upper body like a lot more, and she just wants to kind of keep it where it is, and then she'd fit probably really well into that. But then she'd fit into the figure as well.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
For sure. I remember telling her that once at an Arnold's.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, and I see, because you know, the evolution of the sport is the evolution of the sport. You know, if you look at,
Yeah.
I've been competing. My first time as a figure competitor was 42 kilos, 42.3 kilos.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
and
just changed drastically.
it's like that's not even a bikini competitor these days. But you know, and I won, and you know, I won the universe, you know, and what have you at 42. And I'm like, geez, I wouldn't even get a look in these days. I'd have to go in some pageant somewhere, you know. And now I'm at the other end where I'm at 60 kilos. So what's that in pounds? You do kilos, don't you? Yeah.
No, I do kilos, yeah.
Oh,
So,
you kilos
like,
as well. Yeah.
I'm 60, between 60 and 61 kilos now, but only 150 centimeters, you know,
Yeah.
7 centimeters, I'm sure. But you know, it's taken 20 years to put on,
To do that. Yeah.
to put that on, you know,
Yeah.
and obviously have a kid in between that and then lose it and have to fucking rebuild it all
Get
over.
it all again. Yeah.
But it's right, you know, it's an evolving sport, and you look at the bodies today, and like the 40 that were up there at the Olympia, just gone. That chick, she got fourth. She's a Mexican chick. What's her name? Josie or something like that.
Josie.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Did you see her changes from the New York Pro to the Olympia?
Yes.
Ridiculous.
Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, ridiculous.
out of this world. Like she looked
Yeah.
amazing. She had that full, but she probably didn't have the condition as much at
Yeah.
New York. But she was still conditioned, you know. But then
Yeah.
see the size and the condition and like the shape, how it just,
So different. She looked phenomenal.
and that was her first Olympia too.
I know.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I know.
Like,
It was a pro debut,
funny.
wasn't it, as well, the New York Pro?
Yeah, that was the one she won. That's where she qualified.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
to win it, I mean, that's an illustrious show to win, you know, the New York Pro, isn't it? Like that's that one, and the Pittsburgh is one of the, you know,
Yeah.
elite ones that Bev and Weinberg put on. And yeah, so to win that as a first timer and then go straight to the Olympia and place fourth, it's like, oh wait, it can be done. But goodness gracious, like these are the girls that are coming through the ranks.
Yeah, they've got beautiful physiques.
Oh, it's
Very,
amazing.
very beautiful.
It's amazing. And look, we honestly can't wait to see you up there as well. Hopefully it'll be at the same time so we can hang out together.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be nice.
But you know, we would love to also bring you back on from time to time.
Anytime.
Okay with you.
Anytime.
Because we know the Aussies here love you so much, and you're just a world of knowledge and just a down-to-earth person, really. And
Thank you.
if there are any girls at the moment that are looking for coaching as well, predominantly figure, isn't it, that you work with?
No, I have a mixed array of clients, male and female, all classes. I'm not choosy. Tend to get more females than males, but
yeah,
as long as you work hard, that's all that matters to me.
Well, you know, Megan's definitely Go Figure approved.
Oh,
Absolutely.
thanks.
She gets out to gets the green tick. 100%.
She's got the blue tick, right? You know,
Straight to verified. Straight to verified.
we've been watching Megan for a few years now, and
Yeah.
just been going from strength to strength, and her content's amazing. Her knowledge is amazing. She's got a great team of people that are around her, and so she knows her thing, and she's got leverage as well around you. So whether you're in the Bermuda Triangle, India, or Timbuktu, it doesn't matter where you are, she can work with you face to face and also online. And if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us as well. We can put you in contact with Meg. Or where's the best place where they can find you?
Just drop me a DM on Instagram. I'm always on there if I'm not working. It's the best way. Or an email. You can find my email link in my Instagram. So just pop me a message on there. Yeah.
Meg, thank you so much for coming on. We'll have a chat with you once we stop recording. And once again, we look forward to having you back on, and we look forward to meeting you in person next year.
Yeah, that'll be amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I can't wait. Thank you.